Janika's memories floated before her like fragile glass shards. Her mother's proud words echoed warmly, "I'm so proud of you, my lovely daughter, Janika." Elsewhere, a random student's cheerful voice rang out, "I'm so proud to be your friend." Her professors had praised her too, one calling her the hope of the sophomores, admiring how she showcased proper skills during the joint combat exercise, another professing, "I can trust Janika to take care of it." Even a fellow student confided, "Without you, my second year would have truly been the worst." In her mind's eye, a younger Janika stood on broken glass, surrounded by voices of gratitude and admiration. "We're fortunate to have at least you here, Janika." But the memory shattered abruptly with an explosive roar from Nail Hall, yanking her back to the present. The subduing team stood before her, her resolve hardened as she forced herself to greet them with her usual, bright smile, yet beneath that smile, something far darker had taken hold. Varosphor, the spirit of darkness, had completely overpowered her. Meanwhile, in the heat of battle against Tarkhan, the fire spirit, Ed pondered grimly. The Nail Hall, did they start on Janika's side? The scenario will end by the break of dawn. Fortunately, I'm not too late. He arrived at Lortel and the others, quickly asking, "Where's Lucy?" "She's somewhere nearby, rolling around in a corner," Lortel replied, eyes wary. Ed sighed, "It would have been great if she'd finished things off till the end." Lortel shook her head, "I'm not sure if she has the energy left to do that." "Whatever. Let's put an end to this ourselves," Ed said firmly. "We were planning to do that as well, but..." Lortel's voice trailed off as Clebius desperately tried to escape Tarkhan's wrath. Nearby, Lucy lay defenseless, protected by a glowing spell. Lortel confessed, "I used all of my magic to propel 2 chastising ice spears at him, but he's still holding out." "That's one resilient son of a gun." Ed's eyes narrowed. "We've gotta slash his throat. Your ice magic isn't suited for precise cuts, so I'll do it." Lortel's shock was immediate. "Senior, you're also from the Faculty of Magic. It might be better for Clebius, who carries a blade, to do it. But will he be able to?" Ed asked. "No," Lortel answered emphatically. With calm determination, Ed declared, "I'll take responsibility and end this. Stop that monster from moving just this once. I'm betting on you with my life on the line, so do it properly." Lortel scoffed, "Stuff like 'I'll take responsibility, so you do it,' and 'I'm betting on you with my life on the line,' it's easy to say, but it's just a blind gamble." Ed smiled, cool and composed. "It's not a gamble. The price of one's life isn't cheap. This is an investment." Lortel smirked, "Investment, huh? That's my area of expertise. I like you more than that princess who acts like a monarch just because she's of royal bloodline." She readied her ice magic, "You put your life on the line for me, so I'll put mine on the line for you too. Here I go." Together, they charged Tarkhan. Clebius, exhausted, finally gave up his reckless fight. "Whatever. I can't do this anymore," Tarkhan roared, facing Ed. Ed thought, "This guy and I are both at the end of our ropes. Despite that, I understand Clebius, he's completely frightened." As Tarkhan prepared his fiery attack, Ed held his wind blade spell ready. "Not yet. I have to get even closer." Suddenly, Clebius screamed, "What the hell is that?" Above, a monstrous hand appeared in the sky, Glaskin's right hand. Taylor's party had entered the last phase. Things were progressing as expected, but the timing was poor. Such a spectacle would catch anyone's eye. Ed turned back to Tarkhan, prepared to blast him, but an ice attack intercepted the fire attack. Even amid chaos, Lortel didn't falter. She commanded Ed to strike now. Tarkhan, blinded momentarily, barely recovered in time. But Ed was faster, closing the gap and casting the spell he'd performed thousands of times, Wind Blade. The blade cut cleanly, decapitating Tarkhan. The system congratulated Ed, "You have taken down the high-rank fire spirit, Tarkhan. Your spirit connection and spirit understanding proficiency have increased. Spirit contract slot unlocked. You can now make a contract with a spirit." Ed's gaze lifted to the sky, where Taylor flew toward the giant hand. Moments later, the hand was sliced into pieces and exploded. Taylor fell, and Ed thought, he indeed is the protagonist. The sky cleared, and the student sighed in relief. It's over. Later, beneath a huge tree, Lortel spoke to Ed, I've met a lot of people claiming to risk their lives, but most were cowards. Ed raised an eyebrow, Lortel teased, what's with that, senior? We survived a life and death crisis together, yet you lack sentiment. She introduced herself formally, I'm Lortel Kecklin. Ed shook her hand. She slipped 3 gold coins into his palm, smiling, I won this time. Caught you off guard, didn't I? Now you owe me a favor. What to do now? See you again, senior. Ed wondered if she would keep in touch. But I don't really want to get involved with her, Taylor approached Ed, resentment clear in his voice. I'm resenting you right now. I believe you know why. Ed recognized Taylor's swordsman form manifesting, it looked exactly as it did in the game. Taylor bowed, despite everything, a debt is still a debt. Thank you. Clebius argued, you don't need to show respect to someone like him. He might backstab anyone. I almost died because of him. Jix silenced Clebius, and Lortel snapped, you sure have a lot to say, Clebius. Princess Phenia praised Ed, you did a lot for us this time. I can recommend you to the student council, Ed cut her off, no need. Lucy was the biggest contributor in taking down Tarkhan. Taylor also slayed Velosfer and Glaskin. Focus on that. Alvira chimed in, oh my, you're tossing the credit away. Lucy and Taylor did great, but we're talking about more than that. Or are you embarrassed? Jix told Elvira to show respect to Ed, but she retorted angrily, she asked Jix, why do you keep siding with him? He just tells her to show Ed some respect. Ed reflected silently on his role, I've been keeping my distance from the main characters to not affect the original storyline that however, now that I get to look at all of them at once, I can't help but feel warm and fuzzy. After all, I've watched them play their part in this world and solve their own problems time and time again. Taylor, who grows stronger with each trial. And Isla, who grew stronger with Taylor. Phenia, who embraces her destiny as a monarch. Jix, who finds his own path in the midst of civilization. Clebius, who goes on to become sure about himself, and Elvira, who realizes that life isn't all about fun and excitement. Lortel, who spends her life buried in gold coins, cross-examining her life. All of them were main characters who had their own role to play. And at the end was the trophy named Success. It's because I knew that I turned away. Ed returns to Nail Hall and moves inside. He sees a closed closet lying on the floor. As he opens it, he thinks to himself, because no matter how I thought about it, something felt off. I had to come here. To shine light on the success of the protagonists, someone had to stay backstage, inside the closet, the best waifu, Janica, all beaten and bruised, hides there. As Ed silently stares at Janica, he recalls having a conversation with Lortel, he asks her, come to think of it, why did Janica go berserk? Lortel responded I think I have an idea. I once happened to see Janica's room, you see. Each and everything in there was a beautiful symbol of sincerity and gratitude. But there wasn't even any space to open a book on that huge desk that the post-its pasted on her wall weighed down her shoulders like rocks. The solution to it all was way too simple. She simply had to take off the post-its on the wall and keep the countless gifts on her desk in some corner of her room. But Janica's misery came from her inability to do that like a main character in a fairy tale. She was obsessed with the fact that she had to honor all the goodwill and sincerity she received from the world with utmost diligence. There's no need to explain how reckless that was. Velosfer exploited that darkness. Janica going berserk was to be expected. However, Ed wonders, why did it happen a month earlier than it was supposed to? In the joint combat training episode, originally, the hero of that scenario was Taylor, but since Lucy sent him flying in one blow, all the students became Janica's fans. Marilda and Lucy's contract was the reason Taylor got blown away in one attack. Lucy was able to form that contract because she frequently visited the forest Indiana the North. Since it contained the perfect place to nap. And the person who built that perfect place for napping, was a certain character who was supposed to have left when the first ACT started. In the present, Janica says to Ed, I think I get why Lucy naps here. It's so cozy. I didn't expect you to find me so easily though. I think the others forgot about me amidst the whole chaos. Kinda hurts. After wreaking havoc on such a magnificent stage for everyone to see. I am in the back seat now, that's it all over. I thought they'd look for me, saying, where's Janica? Ed responds, says the person who was hiding so no one would find her. Janica says I can't really argue with that. I didn't expect you to find me right away. I wanted to just stay inside there a bit more. Ed asks her, why? And she responds because I'm about to ugly cry right now. Ed silently stares at her. And recalls what Lucy told him about Marilda, that, it's asking you to make sure you save Janica one day. Ed thinks it feels as though the wolf asked me to save Janica from falling into a situation like this one. But that can't be. I'm the only one who knows the future. She must have thought that while everyone gave Janica attention and pressure, the person trying to keep his distance while pushing her away would, in fact, be someone Janica can rely on. In the end, Janica failed. She tried forming a contract with a high-ranking spirit, but her haste during the summoning ritual made her fall prey to the spirit of darkness, destroying the faculty building in the process. She studied and trained in magic till late at night every day. She always smiled at her family, friends, and teachers who genuinely cheered her on, but while seemingly living up to everyone's expectations, she must have had a really hard time in private. Since that process itself was so beautiful, paradoxically enough, the failure itself was also beautiful. Ed calls her, hey, Janica. He thinks that, I can't tell how comforting these words would be to her, but. He then says to her with a cheerful smile on his face, you've worked hard. Atop the stage, the parade of the proud main characters takes place and applauses of praise come rolling in. On the other hand, behind the stage, it's dark and quiet. The first act's villain exits the stage right as the main characters move forward. Janica, after hearing what Ed said, started to cry. Spirits around start coming at her, and Ed thinks, I've witnessed the completion of the first act countless times. But it is only now, I couldn't see them before. I feel like I've properly seen it to the end. The system informs him that, Spirit Connection Level 10, Spirit Understanding Level 10. And low-rank Fire Spirit Elgo is interested in you. Low-rank Wind Spirit Driss is interested in you. High-rank Wind Spirit Marilda is showing extreme interest in you. 10 days have passed since the end of Janica's disciplinary committee trial. Janica acknowledged all her mistakes and testified that she would willingly accept her punishment. However, during the first trial, all of Janica's professors and friends expressed utmost support. During the second trial, Phineas said that she wouldn't be trialed for the attempted murder of royalty. She testified that Janica, overpowered by Velocipher, didn't do that intentionally. Lortel came forward to address the loss incurred. Elk Merchant Association completely compensated the funds for restoration without asking for anything in return. Though they did add a conditional clause in the contract to reduce the custom fees on the school supplies that they distribute to half. In any case, the outcome of all this was the removal of any benefits given to yearly top students, the taking back of all prizes and decorations of glory, and disqualification from entering the Ophilus Hall from next semester. Janica received a probation for 10 days and suspension for 20 days. But expulsion was revoked. It felt like they just shot a heart-touching montage in a coming-of-age drama. One of Janica's friends thanked God Janica was not expelled. Another said, but Janica's shoulders seemed droopier than usual. She must be under a lot of stress. In that case, they as her friends, gotta step up, they take Janica to go and have desserts. One friend whispers to the other, don't even hint at the Glaskin incident. Don't do anything that might bother her, don't you ever ask her about how she feels and stuff. Make sure you keep the conversation strictly about personal affairs. That's it for the simulation. The girl named Clara asks the other friend named Anis, "Are you ready, Anis?" Anis answers her, "Yeah, Clara." As they wait for Janica to raise the topic, Janica's whole demeanor changes and she says, "Liking and loving someone, why do you think there's such a difference between the two?" The two are shocked and ask her, "Why would you suddenly mention something like that?" Janica explains, "This is about my friend. That friend had a dream, you see, in the dream, she was making a crown of flowers. Suddenly her Prince Charming calls her, 'Hey Janica,' she puts the crown on his head and says, 'I prepared this for you, Ed.' The two lovebirds play around in a field full of flowers. That same dream over and over. My friend, Janica explains to them. But her friends who realize she is talking about herself think, "Janica, you were on probation for 10 days. You couldn't even meet any of your friends." Anna says, "I see, what else did that friend say?" She responds, "She said she'd be in her room blankly staring somewhere." Suddenly that person's face comes to her mind. As Janica was talking, Anis, who does not want to deal with the love-struck Janica, escapes, leaving Clara to deal with this, cause clearly she is not prepared to deal with this today. Her excuse for leaving was, "Oh my. Silly me. I was supposed to help the assistant professor. Bye now." Clara is left horrified since now she has to explain things to Janica all by herself. She thinks, "I need to approach this slowly and carefully to avoid hurting Janica's extremely delicate heart. If things go wrong, the whole student body will find out the love story of Janica Failover. I can't believe this." She calls Janica and says, "Shouldn't you think of this simply without much complications? Whether you like or hate someone is kind of a mystery, don't you think?" Janica asks, "Is it?" Clara continues, "Isn't it better for you to just be honest about your emotions right now, for your friend?" Janica says, "Yeah, you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. As expected of you, Clara." Clara then says, "Also, from now on, try to be careful when you're talking about such sensitive topics. It won't be great for your friend's reputation." Janica gasps and says to Clara, "You're right, Clara. This could have been bad." Clara relaxes as she thinks, she has prevented the rumors for now. As Janica is leaving to go somewhere, she says, "Thanks for giving me genuine advice. I gotta get back to the Office Hall now to report my suspension." Clara responds with, "Yeah, I'll be there in a bit, I have to sort out my thoughts." She happily waves goodbye to Janica, slams to the table, and says, "I did it, Anis." At Ed's side of things, he wonders, "Before this, I relentlessly saved money, but thanks to Phenia's petition, I was waived from next semester's fees. And with the gold coins I got, I bought a few tools." As he walks, he comes across Janica in the forest. Ed thinks, "I avoided her all this time, but now that the first act where Janica was the main character is over now. So he decides to engage her this time. "Hello, Janica, I guess your probation is over now." He thinks it'd be good if I take the first step and say hello, right? But his usual behavior scares her instead, or maybe it is because she has feelings for him now. She shyly responds, "Yeah." As Janica tries to say something, she thinks she has to be honest with her feelings. But in the end, she ends up running away. And says to Ed, "I have stuff to do at the Office Hall, so I'll see you later. Bye." For Janica, the difficulty level was too high. Ed is so shocked by her reaction that the color literally fades from his body. But he says to himself, "Let's not be too clingy. I'm about to be busy too after all." Finally, it's time to make the hut. On day 1, I chose the location to build the hut. I chose a wide area under the shade that didn't stand out too much and started working peacefully. By day 3, I started gathering wood. I had become quite proficient at wind blade, so that went smoothly. By day 6, I paused gathering wood for the time being since the semester end results were out. I got pretty high scores for my practicals and my results for the theory exams were higher than the average freshman. Special incidents. Janica continued to ignore me. Janica's friends, Clara and Anis looked at me as if to say that I shouldn't dare to show my face. I don't plan to either. By day 18, the lumber work is almost complete. I wonder if there was ever someone who became this proficient at wind blade. By day 20, vacation started. Now I could put all my time into building the hut. Special incident: I went to check the trap I set earlier only to find Lucy caught there sleeping peacefully. I should stop using beef jerky as the bait. By day 27, senior maid, Belle Maya, came to give me some herbs and mushrooms. She asked me how things were going with Janica. When I said she might hate me now, she tilted her head. By day 30, with one pillar as in the center, the outer lumber walls collapsed. I realized that simply making and fitting joints properly wasn't enough to make it stable. This feels like shit. I ran into Janica's group again at the bakery. Janica just flat out ran away the moment our eyes met. Janica's friends are shocked to know the one Janica likes is Ed. By day 37, Jix came to help me. As you said, Taylor seems like a pretty good guy. Does he? Ed wonders. Great. It's going as per the original storyline. Jix asks Ed, are we going to hammer nails all over this side as well? Ed responds, no, leave that side. That's for the chimney. By day 45, Ed walks into a small room, sits down, and wonders, neither the flooring nor walls are attacked. There's not a single piece of furniture either. It was just a hut made of crude logs of wood. But there are outer walls and a ceiling too. If I shut the door completely, insects can't get in. As he relaxes, satisfied with his work, the system informs him that new complete creation log hut has been made. Your creation is complete. Your proficiency in creation has increased. Ed thinks to himself out loud, I have a home now. Janica, being his #1 stalker, watches him from behind a tree. Ed thinks I'm done with the walls, flooring, and the fireplace. It'd be good to put up a fence as well. A storage for the firewood and a few other stuff would be great too. As he lies on the floor, someone crashes onto his roof. He immediately knows who it is and says to Lucy that, this isn't a damn nap tower. Janica decides to finally come out of her hiding spot and says hello to Ed, drawing his attention. Ed quickly responds, oh. Hey Janica. He asks her, how come you're all the way out here? Flashback to some time ago, Maya told Janica that, while I was in the forest last time, I went to young Master Ed's campsite and I found a sight there that was truly shocking. Janica asks her if she is talking about the hut. Maya asks, how'd you know? And Janica responds, I saw it while I was passing by. Maya says, I see. Anyhow, he said he built it himself, but it was way more remarkable and well built than I expected. I was quite taken aback. After all, I didn't know he was talented at such things. Janica then says, I see. Maya tells Janica that, I also wanted to look in there. You know, roam around to take a look, see how firm it is. Janica says back to Maya, I see. So you're curious about stuff like that too, Belle? Maya says to Janica, of course, I'm human too. Anyone who saw a hut like that in their way would be curious about who built it, how they did it, and how it is from the inside, wouldn't they? It's an extremely expected and natural phenomenon. I tell you, expected and natural. In the present, Janica, who is embarrassed, says to Ed, I was walking by. After seeing Marilda. And I saw the hut. So I dropped by. I mean, anyone who saw a hut like this would be curious about who built it, and how it is from the inside, wouldn't they? Isn't it? It's to be expected. It's only natural. Isn't it? Ed, who is confused, just responds with, yeah, I guess. She tells him, it's a great hut, Ed. Ed says to her that, I only built it recently. But didn't the spirits tell you? Janica, who is blushing, tells Ed that they told me a little bit. More like what they say passing by. Just mentioning it like, there's also the hut, and nothing much. She remembers the spirits telling her that, you can see his fine muscles when he has his top off. Another reports that, his arm muscles were a bit thicker, the fine veins near his collarbone compared to the back of his hand are. Turns out that, they have just been giving daily reports on Ed himself, not what he was doing. But Janica lies and tells Ed that, I don't talk a lot with the spirits. I don't really know how exactly you live. Ed asks her if she wanna come inside and take a look. It's just a log hut. She becomes happy upon hearing that and says yes to the request. She is shocked and asks, whoa. You made all of this alone. At night, while they are sitting and having tea by the campfire, Janica says, I owe others a big one this time. Princess Lortel did so much. Some of my friends even said they'd let me borrow money for the tuition. How will I ever pay them back? Ed just silently listens, before saying, if you can't pay them back, just don't. Isn't it a generalization to think you gotta pay back what you owe? Janica gasps and says, whoa. I've never thought of it that way. Ed thinks that's the kind of person Janica is. She can't understand that the incident happened because the weight of all that sincerity of others pressed her down. Despite there being so many supporting her with tuition fees or rather investing in her, she resolved to move from the Awfulest Hall with state-of-art facilities to the outdated Dex Hall. All because she wanted to owe less to others, even if a little bit. In Awfulest Hall, there's one room for every student, but in Dex Hall, there's 8 or more students in a single room. Spending the whole day being looked at with envy would be like being chained in prison for Janica. In the end, it won't solve any of her underlying issues. The vicious cycle still hasn't ended. Ed then tells her, if you ever want to be secluded, you can drop by any time. I don't mind. And Janica happily responds, yeah, that makes me really happy. She then asks, hey, Ed, if you ever feel overwhelmed, or can't handle something alone, I hope you make sure to tell me. When that happens, I'll help you at all costs. She smiles at him and he smiles back and asks, overwhelmed, you say? The second semester was approaching soon. That's about the time of the start of Act 2. Sage's sealed grimoire. The great sage Sylvania made records of aspectual magic in this book. Aspectual magic is a high difficulty level magical branch that's known to alter the very principles of nature. This little worn out book will cause a storm. Lortel thinks out loud, as I thought, it smells of money after all. The book will cause a storm that will devour the entire academy. Regardless, Ed thanks Janica for saying that, but that won't happen. That won't happen. At least not to him. Ed thinks you're going to have a hard time, Taylor. It has nothing to do with me, but it'll seriously be hard as hell. I'm cheering for you, man. The Failed Swordsman of Sylvania Episode 2, Awfulest Hall's Occupation. The honor students at Awfulest Hall are almost guaranteed a life like nobles. First choice of seating in a class, guaranteed freedom during meal time, special maids, and tons of other convenient perks at a whole nother level. This is where the problem arises. There was heavy rain to the southwest side of the Valori area around the time of returning to school after vacation. As per the academy, only the Awfulest Hall students were provided horse carriages and boats to return to school. If they couldn't return on time, they were given the perk of relaxing for a few days. The Dex Hall's inferior students who trudged along and returned even through the whole downpour but failed to do so in time, feared deduction of points and felt frustrated. Eventually, the pent-up feelings exploded in front of the Awfulest Hall. All of this played out, within the hands of a merchant. The merchant got in touch with the rep of the inferior students in advance. And that guy only cared about screwing over the academy and Awfulest Hall. Discontentment was already through the roof. Only thing they needed was a common justification for the inferior and regular students. Willain, who was adept at provoking and manipulating others with his words, would pull the trigger for the rest. The justification was already set. A clear discriminatory treatment against regular students who had to return to school no matter what, through the downpour. A proposal suggesting a proactive change in the deadline to return to school supported by acknowledging the exceptional treatment Awfulest Hall students received. Awfulest Hall's headmaid and a part of the Academy's administration review division were already on Lortel's side. They will fervently support Lortel's proposal. At this point, it didn't matter whether the Academy actually accepts the proposal or not. Just the thought of discussing this as a solution will be sufficient to infuriate the inferior students. They'll amplify the entire controversy into the largest, most vocal issue. Ophelis Hall is adorned with art pieces donated by noble and affluent families. And even the walls, carpets and hardwood furniture were crafted by artisans. The more damage to assets, the better. While they were at it, it'd be best if they completely destroy part of the Ophelis Hall. The more they run amok, the more of a critical hit it'll be to the finances of the Academy that's already in a predicament due to the Glaskin incident. And as the negotiations for the Sage's sealed grimoire were currently underway, if granted the Elt Merchant Association a distinct advantage. The Sage's sealed grimoire is like the heart of Sylvania, yet people are willing to offer even their own hearts in times of desperation. Lortel wonders when the rain will stop. She thinks to herself, there isn't a single ray of light in this gloomy sky. It's like the sky I saw in the slums wearing those shabby rags. I can't help but mock myself for feeling relieved. This unbelievably romantic land of learning has way too many lights. The image of me living in utter darkness covered completely in dirt is way more vivid to me. The traces of conspiracy on top of my desk are the proof of that. They're traces of a person who has lived a life never showing the slightest sincerity and always betraying and suspecting others. While desperately struggling to survive, this is what I turned into. But that doesn't change the essence of my filthy self. So I frantically look for my own kind. Even in Sylvania, where it is full of bright and radiating people reside, there must be someone among them who would acknowledge the disgusting life of a gutter rat covered in filth. The endless lookout for my kind never stopped despite the vain hope in my heart. She wonders, how lonely. Because one's true self never changes. To make it through the miserable reality, Lortel always took the same stance. Lortel was the dark curtain that covered the gloomy reality behind the stage at all times. The audience called her, Black Veil. The students outside Ophelis Hall shout out, we can't take this treatment anymore. This is the land of learning. At least guarantee us equality in grades. In the original storyline, the Ophelis Hall occupation incident is a story of how the main character stops the inferior students who were provoked against Lortel. A maid inside Ophelis Hall exclaims, what is this? I should report to the chief maid. There are middle bosses from the 1st to 5th floor of Ophelis Hall who interrupt the main character and help the inferior students. The middle boss of the 1st floor, Tote, the decoy, Tote mocked Taylor by calling him a loser and got beaten up by Taylor's friends. So he held a grudge against them and was bought off by Lortel. His role was to overpower the rookie maid protecting the 1st floor. He carries the maid and kicks the Ophelis Hall's door open. And let the students in. Some of the students are shocked and wonder, what's going on? But another screams Ophelis Hall's doors are open. Let's go in. Another NPC says, a subpar decent treatment. We're not asking for a lot. Just a subpar decent treatment. Let's make our voices heard. Once the students get through the 1st floor, the Act 2 Phase 1 middle boss Tote plays a certain role. The role of stopping the main character and his friends who'd come after them. Will Lane asks the hooded figure, so you're the one Lortel bought off, and he responds, yes, I'm the one in charge of checking the 1st floor and being on the lookout. That's right. Originally this role was supposed to be Tote's. The hooded figure turns out to be Ed Rothtaylor. Ed wonders why the hell did he become a middle boss. Ed is still annoyed at the fact that he has become the middle boss of Act 2. To explain why this happened, I must rewind the events from 2 days ago. 2 days before the outbreak of the Ophelis Hall incident, the system informs Ed, compatibilities details. Rank, Novice Fighter, Specialty, Bow Proficiency, Level 6, Vital Point Fire, Level 3, Speedy Fire, Level 2, Retreat Sire, Level 1, Sense of Aim, Level 2, Expanded Field of Vision, Level 1. I'm feeling it afresh once again. Ed Rothtaylor really has zero talent when it comes to combat skills. I'm forcing myself to use the bow every time I hunt. A whole semester and half the vacation is over, yet still, my bow proficiency is totally pathetic. More importantly, recently, in the camp, more and more frequently, I keep getting visitors. How do I put this into words? I feel like the fact that I'm living in the woods to the north is something a lot of people are becoming aware of. Anyhow, among the frequent visitors, 3 of them are worth mentioning. Visitor A is an extraordinary genius mage and she usually visits me at random times. Lucy says, "There's a door now. Let's make a back door as well. Are you going to make a chimney too? Why don't you have a glass window? It won't break down, will it? We can't be using magic nearby. How about making a window through the roof too?" Visitor A, geez. Things just don't go your way when it comes to her. As for Visitor B, I was actually happy to have her over. Janica says, "I brought eggs. Belle said you'd like it if I gave you these." She's the second year's top student and quite the spirit sorcerer. Janica says, "If you add boiled salted water and step on it like this, they'll whiten up." Fascinating, right? This is what my parents did whenever clothes got too dirty at our farm. Despite her frequent visits, I just welcomed her without any discomfort and she would come almost daily, babbling with spirits, and helping me with trivial tasks done why gratitude towards her knew no end. Ed says, "Janica, why are you wreath best?" How do you know all that? Ed's thought, what's wrong with her? I just complimented her, Janica says. By the way, she seemed really easy to read. Janica asks, How often does Lucy come here, though sometimes something seems off about her. Anyhow, she's my visitor B, and the main reason I decided to explain this. Lortel says, "Oh my, Ed, looks like you're busy." Visitor C, Lortel says, "I was waiting for you." The one that the world calls Lortel adds, "I needed your help, you see." The Golden Daughter. Lortel is the Black Veil of Act 2. She's probably trying to gather people who'll be of use to her in occupying the Awfulest Hall, but this time, I don't want to get entangled in this. I'm just going to reject any offers. Lortel says, "I wasn't going to ask you this favor at first either, you see. As long as I don't butt in, everything will go according to the scenario." Lortel says, "If only Tote hadn't passed out, why isn't going as per the scenario?" Ed screams, "What? Why did he faint? Tell me what happened." Originally Tote picked a fight with Taylor, but during their interaction, Tote says to Taylor, "What a joke. This flunker took down Glaskin. As if the whole student body saw you getting knocked out by Lucy in one blow." Tote was supposed to get beaten just enough by Taylor. But what he said next was, "You're worse than that insect Ed Roth." Taylor. This sentence alone got him knocked out by Jix, which was not supposed to happen. Lortel says to Ed, "I don't know if it was because of Taylor or you." Elvira said it was her first time seeing Jix so angry. "Honestly, I just can't trust emotional people. I don't have anything too hard for you to do. Take this key from Alice, enter the Awfulest Hall, and when the inferior students flock there, you just need to open the door." Ed responds, "I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people, besides me, who can do that." Lortel says to him, "Well, regardless of how much money they get, there's no guarantee they won't rat me out to the Academy's inner investigators. If they say, Lortel is the one behind all this, what will become of me? I can't trust just anyone." Ed thinks, "So she came to me because of my shitty reputation." Lortel then says to him, "Ed, you were kicked out of the Awfulest Hall, weren't you? Don't you want to screw the Academy over in return?" Ed tells Lortel, "I don't really want to do that. Still, how about you listen to my conditions?" He thinks, "I just need to play my part, in moderation." He asks for 20 gold coins from her. And she accepts his deal, so they shake on it. Ed thinks to himself, before this story gets any more distorted, I'm just going to set everything back where it belongs. One day before the outbreak of the Awfulest Hall incident, Awfulest Hall's occupation started before the fight over Sage's sealed grimoire started. Lortel's ploy to drive the Academy's finances into complete madness. So it's kinda like a liking episode. As per the storyline, Lortel succeeds with this conspiracy and forms merchantry, a profitable group in the academy. Thus creating a structure that rivals Princess Phenia's Student Association, the Idealist Student Association and the Realistic Merchantry. What matters is who Taylor will choose, since that side will become the winner. Ed thinks, I just need to remain a spectator, and then join the group that seems like they'll win. I mean, I gotta survive too. Janica then shows up and says I gotta get back to the dorms. I thought the rain would stop today. Ed, you're really amazing. I can come and go as I please, as if on a camping trip. But you need to stay here even on rainy days like today. Ed responds, it gets better with time. Janica remembers something and tells him, come to think out of it, it's about time I move out from the Awfulest Hall now. Ed says, yeah, I guess since the vacation is almost over. Janica says I need to throw out a lot of the little stuff. Dex Hall was way smaller than I imagined. Speaking of which, if you need anything, tell me, Ed. There's a lot you need here, right? Ed says, yeah. Okay, Janica says I have extra pillows, cushions, clocks, and lanterns too. Apart from that, I have plenty of daily necessities and supplies too. I feel like it's a waste to throw it all away, and it's a lot of work too, you know. However, I can't really bring furniture with me because all of it belonged to the Awfulest Hall. And Ed, touched by her act of kind gesture, says, I'd love that. Janica becomes happy and says, great. I'll leave when the semester starts, so I'll bring that stuff then. About Lucy, does she do that often? But Ed says, sometimes. Ed knows Lucy's extraordinarily strong powers didn't come free of cost for her. She lived her life running away, using her laziness as an excuse. She had been turning her eyes away from her promised fate for so many years already. No matter how many screws she had lost, and she couldn't help but reflect on her life on rainy days like this one. He tells Janica that, that's how she is when it rains. Don't mind her too much. I tend to just not pay any attention to her. Janica, who is excited, says I see. So you're indifferent towards Lucy, Ed thinks, come to think of it, SHE's still inside Awfulest Hall. When the Awfulest Hall gets occupied, protection runes will activate on a large scale, and lock all students inside their rooms. Janica would have no trouble escaping from there on her own, but he tells Janica, I have a favor to ask of you. She answers, yeah, what is it? He tells her that, tomorrow, around 9 p.m., could you come out to the rose garden in front of the Awfulest Hall? Janica starts to blush when she hears the rose garden. Ed says to her, I'll tell you the reason tomorrow. He thinks I can't really come up with the words to explain it to her right now. I should just get her out of there in case something unexpected happens. Someplace not too far away, where she can avoid the rain. Janica gets up and responds with okay. I'll get going now. Bye. And then she leaves. Ed is silent but is relieved she listened to him. He thinks, around the start of the semester, the rain will stop too. I can finally enjoy the bright, sunny sky that day after a long time. After that, even these woods will give off the typical fall scent. The long vacation is also ending now. The D-Day of the outbreak of the Awfulest Hall incident finally arrived at 9 p.m. Inside of the Awfulest Hall, Jix is busy training. He thinks, my execution is lacking. I should also avoid reacting emotionally as much as possible. I didn't expect Elka to get that angry. When he takes a break to look outside the window, he sees a hooded figure who turns out to be Ed. Ed walks up to a maid of Awfulest Hall and asks, what about the other maids? She says to him, other than the essential personnel, most of them are in the meeting room. The chief maid asked them to assemble to discuss an important agenda. Ed thinks, so they're planning to block the entrance after gathering them there. The person in command has been bought off, so things are working out quickly. While Ed is walking through the hall with the maid, she says to him, I've also prepared the goods that were asked for in advance. Ed thanks her and she leaves him to do his job. The preparations are all done. In front of the Awfulest Hall, angry students are waiting. Awfulest Hall's occupation. Here it goes. One NPC shouts, we can't take this treatment anymore. And another adds, this is the land of learning. At least guarantee us equality in grades. Will Lane, the rep of the inferior students shouts, answer to our pleas. The door to the hall suddenly opens and the students get surprised, one asks what's going on. And another says, Awfulest Hall's doors are open. Let's go in. They rush inside. Will Lane says thanks, so you're the one Lortel bought off, Ed Rothtiwelor. Ed then says I have always agreed with all the things you shout out. Of course, I lived well off in the Awfulest Hall, but only when I was kicked out did I deeply realize the special privileges I enjoyed. Will Lane gets emotional and calls himself a fool for judging Ed based on those rumors. He says to Ed, I didn't even know you're such a great person. You just did so much today. Ed rushes Will Lane inside the hall, saying you're the one who pulled all this off. Quickly, get to the upper floor, Will Lane responds, okay. I'll leave this place to you. Ed knows that Will Lane is the one who'll take the blame for all this. I'm sorry. Toughen up, Will Lane. There's not really any need to stop the maid who's running away. After all, any superiors she has to report to are inside the meeting hall. The chief maid, Alice, who controls the protection runes, is in Lortel's hands. A system informs them that, activating protection runes. And the protection runes that are supposed to protect the students. Some students are confused and ask, what on earth is going on outside? It'll all get back to normal if we wait, right? Ed knows the protection runes will end up detaining them. Everything's going as per the scenario, and Black Veil, who set this all up, shows up. Lortel says to Ed, your start is way flashier than I expected. As expected of you, Ed. It was a good idea to leave this to you. Even my socks are soaking wet now. This is why I hate rainy days. Ed asks her, so you were watching, Lortel? Lortel tells Ed, the academy employees will repress them in no time once they're here, so we need to finish things before then. Ed says to her, yeah. Do your best. Before Lortel leaves, she calls Ed and says, I know this is kinda out of the blue, but, have you ever killed someone? Ed goes silent for a while and responds, no, I haven't. Lortel laughs and says, me neither. But you see, I have done similar things. Because I needed to survive. To survive, I crushed other people's lives, and to avoid being betrayed, I stabbed others in the back first. I lived my life forgiving myself for my sins, believing I didn't have a choice. But in all honesty, I was just making excuses for myself. Ed knows that is how Lortel got the name, Golden Daughter. She knows it better than anyone. That she doesn't deserve any sympathy. So, she ends up looking for it from other people. She calls Ed again and asks, could you ever sympathize with a person like me? It was almost as if she's possessed. Loneliness finds its way to people regardless of whether they're good or evil. And to escape it, people have no choice but to look for people similar to themselves, rolling around in dirt and filth. Only after they find someone who'll sink to the bottom of the marsh with them do they find a sliver of redemption. To Lortel's dismay, Ed says, no, you gotta take responsibility for your decisions, Lortel. He thinks, of course, that person is not me. Ed and Lortel silently stare at one another, until she says to him, I said something useless that was quite unlike myself. I should go do what I'm here for. After all, there isn't much time. After saying that, she leaves. And Ed sits down to relax. Ed thinks to himself, now, Lortel will talk to Alice about their plan going forward. Once they make the defense magic of Awfulest Hall go berserk, and hand over the command of the runes to Will Lane, the leader of the inferior students, the story will unfold with the current events intensifying. Then, Will Lane, packed with the dense protection of Awfulest Hall's defense spells, will transform into the 4th stage's boss. This scenario is about defeating Will Lane, who's going to lose his mind in the middle of defense runes endlessly going berserk. I just gotta do an average job to drag some time, and then lose. Taylor will then go up to the 2nd floor, and handle the rest. I might take a few hits in the process of fighting others, but it's a necessary sacrifice. In the rose garden, a carriage arrives and Janica wonders, why is there a horse carriage this late at night? Looks like it's someone important. Is it okay for me to be here right now? Ed wouldn't know yet, right? I mean, he left after leaving me this note. Did he prepare something special? To Janica, the golden horse carriage wasn't of any importance to her. Whatever happens, she wasn't going to leave the Rose Gardens pavilion. That's because for the past 3 days, she kept thinking deeply about what Ed wanted to talk to her about, and was unable to sleep at night. Because despite the guilt she felt, she kept track of what Ed was up to through Marilda. She learned that it wasn't just Lucy who visited Ed's camp. Even Princess Phenia, Belle Maya, Jikks, and even Lortel were seen coming out of there. The coincidence that most of them were fellow female students made it even more heartbreaking for her. That's why she was going to wait for him no matter how long. Janica says to herself, but, was this permission flower hairpin a bad choice? Cosmos would have been prettier. If I managed to hurry my way back, it might be okay. Janica would still wait. After she returns with her new hairpin, that is. She headed for the Ophilis Hall. In front of Ophilis Hall, 3 figures stand there, one asks another, are you sure going in there is the right decision? And she responds, do you know how much the herbs in my room are worth? She is then told, but it might be better to wait for the academy workers to handle the situation. Elvira, who is one of the people standing in front of the hall, shouts at Taylor, the herbs will lose their properties if I don't use preservation magic in time. Do you know how much that little detail affects the result? Do you even get how profound that is, Taylor? Taylor, who is frustrated at Elvira, says to Isla, stop her, she's trying to barge in there all alone. Isla then responds with, can't you just turn out a blind eye? Elvira's the top student in the alchemy faculty. I'm sure she can protect herself. She's not the one in danger. Those poor students are. If she loses her mind, she's just going to attack them with any chemical she gets her hands on. Elvira decides to go inside Ophilis Hall and Taylor, trying to stop her, says, Elvira. Stop. I said stop. But Elvira says back to Taylor, enough chit-chat. I gotta get to the 4th floor where my room is. Isla says to Elvira, then, you just need to get to your room, right? If you get there, you won't be doing anything else, right? Elvira responds, of course. I just need my herbs to be safe and sound. If anyone gets in my way, I'll force my way through. Got it? She kicks the door of the hall open and is surprised to see Ed sitting near the staircase, just aura farming cause he can. Taylor asks, why are you here? Elvira silently looks around and thinks, there's footsteps of students who've already swarmed in here. The display cabinet's a mess. And Ed's planted here with his back to the stairs. She smiles and says, this is interesting. I didn't expect this. Are you going to stop us? Ed then speaks, saying, I'm sorry, you can't go in there. Elvira laughs and says, this is fun, and what if I want to? Are you sure you can stop me? I heard from Jix your magic proficiency's pretty high, but what's the point? You're just a rookie who can only use basic spells. A little second-year student. The disrespect is crazy. I can't wait for Ed to beat this bitch's ass. Elvira continues, we've got a swordsman who can hold his own on my side, and a mage who's skilled with the average first-year level spells. And me, an alchemist with the best of abilities in my year. That's an overwhelming power differential. Taylor angrily questions Ed, why are you doing this, Ed Rothtlor? Tell me right now, what's happening up there? But Ed just remains silent. Taylor charges at Ed and says, I guess I have no choice but to force you to speak up. Ed throws his chair at Taylor, but Taylor manages to slash it. As Ed prepares his magic. Elvira wonders, that magic? It looks like a basic spell, he's a mage. So he'll probably target Taylor since he's the best at close-range scuffle, right? But to her shock, Ed points his magic upwards and fires his wind blade. Which moves and cuts down the chandelier, which begins to fall down at Taylor. Taylor is shocked too, but at the last moment he manages to escape his pending doom. The noise from the crash alerts the whole hall, and the students who are locked in their rooms wonder what that noise was. Clebius, who is terrified in his room, wonders, what's happening out there? While the dust is clearing up, Taylor asks, Isla, are you okay? And she responds, I'm fine, Taylor. I just fell down because of the shock. He then asks Elvira, are you okay? And she says, don't mind me, but before Elvira can see clearly, Ed fires another wind blade at her, which cuts off some of her hair and the strap of the bag she is wearing. That's what you get for talking trash at your boy. All her pills and potions fall out. She angrily says to Ed, so, you're serious about this, huh? That means there's really something going on the floor above after all, huh? She looks in front but can't find Ed. Without wasting this chance, she decides to take back her pills and potions. But Ed wouldn't let her get it that easily. He uses the spell ignition to set the place on fire. This action stops the trash talker from doing anything useful. Finally, the battlefield was set up so naturally, almost like water flowing. Elvira thinks to herself, this is not good. Ed Roth Taylor's judgment was quick and precise. Jix, you can't be leaving out information out like that. This isn't just high magic proficiency. Like and subscribe to help grow this channel. Thank you.